My name is Tom Parkinson. I'm the senior pastor at Dutilh Church, and I'm so thankful that you've taken time to watch this video. Over the course of 3 weeks, from April 28th to May 12th of 2019, we held 16 focus groups at Dutilh Church to introduce our congregation to a vision for our future and to allow an opportunity for our whole congregation to discern what the next years of ministry look like at Dutilh. This video is meant as a summary of the presentations that were made at those focus groups. During this video, you'll have the opportunity to hear about our past, our present, and our future vision. You'll also have a chance to see some conceptual drawings about a building renovation and expansion project that are part of our vision for the future at Dutilh. And above all else, you'll be able to catch our vision of why we feel that God is calling us to make room for the next generation of ministry here at Dutilh Church. Thank you for taking time to watch the video. Thank you for praying for us as we uncover this vision, and thank you for your participation in the life of our ministry. At Dutilh Church, we have the most important mission in the world. We make disciples of Jesus Christ who love God, love others, and love to serve. To accomplish this mission, we envision a community where everyone is known by name, loved for who they are, and empowered to follow Jesus Christ. We're blessed to live into this mission and vision in Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. Cranberry is a growing and exciting community. 150 people move into Cranberry Township every month, and each of those persons is known by God, loved by God, and needs a church to call home, a place where they can grow in their relationship with Jesus. That's why we believe that the time has come for Dutilh Church to make room for the next generation of ministry. In John 14, verse 2, Jesus says that he's gone ahead of us to the Father's house to make room for us. Jesus makes a room for all people in the kingdom of heaven. In the same way, we feel God calling us to make room for every person in our community to encounter the love of Jesus Christ. Specifically, we feel called to make room for God. Knowing that our lives are busy, that we live in a fast-paced world, it's important for our church to empower people to make room for God in their lives, so that God's grace and presence might be our top priority. We also believe it's important to make room for others. In a growing community, we are called to serve others, to love others, and to share the love of Christ with others. And we want to make room in our lives for new relationships and new opportunities to share the gospel. We also want to make room to serve. As those called by Jesus not to seek our own interest, but the interest of others, we want to be a church that makes room in our lives, room in our church, space in our community for acts of service and love and outreach. We believe it's time for Dutilh Church to make room. But this isn't the first time in our history that we've made room. Listen in closely to how Dutilh Church's history sets us up for this moment to make room.
"175 years ago, Dutilh Church was born when 4 local farming families started to meet for services in a local barn. By 1868, the church had grown to the point where it needed its first building, and the church was built right here on location with ground that was donated by the Dutilh family. And for over a century, the church served this farming community in Cranberry. Then everything changed in 1986 when an arsonist set fire to Dutilh Church, burning the building to the ground.
I was over here in the education building where the current offices are. That was a separate building from the church. And Doug came charging up the stairs and said to me, "Sherry, we have to get the kids out of here. The church is on fire." And it was a frigid day. We sort of tried to stuff them in their coats. And in that little brief time, as I got children herded down the steps, a human chain of people from the community and the church had formed right outside our door over to the parsonage, and we just handed those 43-year-olds hand over hand. It was just sort of a surreal day, kind of earth-shattering to think that our church was going up in flames.
lots of destruction, lots of people, because it was a
A lot of the congregation was
yeah,
there.
a lot of the congregation, just a lot of people from the community, because it was it was kind of a cornerstone of the community. It was something that people looked at to see. So, Salem United Methodist Church let us have our Ash Wednesday service in their sanctuary, and the ashes we used were the ashes of the from the fire.
They were from our altar, actually.
Yeah.
They took them right off the altar here at the old church.
A fire that was meant to harm the church was used by God for good. Undeterred by the ashes, the congregation rallied together and doubled down on its mission, determined not just to rebuild the church as it was, but to make room for the future of a growing community in Cranberry.
He was a young pastor, and he was a little at odds about what to do. He just didn't know how to handle it. And he happened to be at a conference where Norman Vincent Peale was there. So he thought he would get some advice, and I guess he spoke with him and told him his dilemma. And Norman Vincent Peale just looked at him and said, build bigger. And came up with these what's your wildest dream? What would be a possibility that you might think we can never do, but we could possibly reach it? And we would put these wild dreams up there, and we did it. I mean, it happened as we built, and the congregation filled. We filled with people, and it was pretty amazing.
The hopes were that we would fill that church. We would fill it, and probably someday need to build bigger yet. That was the hope, and that was the dream.
3 decades ago, leaders of our church had the vision to see that the community around us was changing, and that the church needed to make room so that others could experience God's grace in this place. 30 years later, many of us who have experienced God's love here at Dutilh have experienced God here because of the vision of 30 years ago, because of a church that was willing to make room for the future. But what if 30 years ago those leaders hadn't had that vision? What if they didn't decide to make room? Would you and I have had the opportunity to experience God's grace in the way that we have? Today, Dutilh Church once again has the opportunity to make room for the future. Cranberry Township continues to be a dynamic and growing place. 150 people move into this community every month, and those folks are loved by Jesus and need a church home, and we have the opportunity to make room for them. 30 years from now, we have the opportunity to have children and grandchildren who will look back on what we do today and say, we are so grateful that the leaders of our church had the vision to make room for us so that we could know Jesus through this place. It's time for Dutilh Church once again to catch God's vision and to make room. The church is not a building. The church is not a steeple. The church is not a resting place. The church is the people. Dutilh Church is not defined by the building that we do ministry in. We're defined by our people. That doesn't mean, however, that our building isn't important. Our church building is a tool for ministry. Over the years, our building has been loved deeply and used heavily. And as a result, there are some ways in which our current building hinders our mission in ministry. And I have asked our staff to spend a little time today sharing with you some of the ways in which our building hinders our ministry.
There are quite a few different ways that the building hinders the ministry.
Right now, we have 8 12-step groups that meet in our building. Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Celebrate Recovery, Overeaters Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. We also have a couple of scout groups that meet in our church. The local WIC organization, that's Women's, Infant, and Children, it's a federal program, meets their clients in our church. And at least one area counselor uses our facility to meet clients also. All of those are needed and necessary services to our community. And the other thing is, those groups are outgrowing their spaces. You know, it is not unusual to come in here on certain evenings and one of the 12-step groups is literally spilling out of their room because they have more participants that can fit into the meeting space that they've been assigned.
The children's ministry lacks any dedicated space for its programs. So anytime there is a church luncheon or any kind of event in the fellowship hall, it displaces our children's ministry Kingdom Kids program to one of the smaller preschool rooms. And so we're putting about 50 kids in that room to do our version of a worship service, and it's a little tight and not quite as conducive to that setting. The current setup is not accessible at all for anyone with disabilities. We had a student a few years ago who had surgery and was in a wheelchair and could barely make it down that narrow hall into the Ed Wing and could not make it upstairs for her classes. One of the things we run into with our church being open to all of these community groups, which I think is fantastic and something that we should do as a church, but we run into this issue of our programs ending at the same time that those people are coming in, and it doesn't really provide the secure environment for the children that we need to be able to provide.
We have issues with fitting our ensembles up on the chancel.
The HVAC system, I've been here since last July, and since then we have spent upwards of $40,000 on repairing, not replacing.
Some of the limitations we have with the building and the classrooms are that they are a little bit outdated.
The kitchen itself is too small.
It is becoming increasingly more difficult to schedule all of the rooms because of the volume of use we're getting for our building.
The parking lot, we believe that it's too narrow. It's not set up properly.
We've got on our rolls right now 105 students between the ages or the grades of 7 and 12. And if you ever have an opportunity to stop up in the education wing in the student room, you can pretty easily see that 105 students wouldn't fit there. And as Dutilh continues to grow and become a more and more vital congregation, that number of students will grow and we will just continue to have space for less and less of them.
People have seen our choir, they have grown. We're at about 16 or 17 and it's hard to fit us up there appropriately in a good place where we sound good. So that's an issue. Storage back there is an issue. We've got so much equipment and random stuff that we need to store in the chancel area. Just there's no good place to put it in the chancel area.
I looked into getting our preschool certified through the state, and we had to stop that process just because of the building and the classrooms don't necessarily meet all of the requirements that are needed, and it would take a lot to get them up to code.
One thing I've noticed in the time that I've been here is in the greeting area, it's pretty cramped for the size of our congregation. So for example, when we had the new member welcome service and all the new people were welcomed, and it was such a great day and there was so much energy and people wanted to stay and chat, and there was really nowhere for them to do that comfortably. So people were kind of crowded into the cafe area, crowded into the where some people were trying to leave, most people were trying to stay and chat, and you couldn't really even get out, you couldn't move around and talk. So I feel like in that instance, it hindered the fellowship that would have and could have been going on. It was still great, it was a great day, but it could have been better if we had had a little more space to stay and enjoy each other's company.
Our HVAC system here at Dutilh, that has been a pretty consistent part of the building that has completely broken down over time. I've been told by members that have been here for 20 plus years that it was an issue 20 years ago. We've done some things that have helped to improve the HVAC system, but we believe that the new build, taking out everything that we currently have and adding rooftop units and a variety of other concepts, I think we're considering leaving the boiler system here in the sanctuary, but the HVAC system is the number one thing that we need to change.
With our Vacation Bible School program, we have to cap it at 300 students because we just simply do not have the space to move the kids around throughout the building to make it any larger. We could probably fit some more in the sanctuary, but as they rotate throughout the day, we are maxed out at our space at 300 children.
It is a very crowded space to work in. There isn't enough storage. We trip over each other. We have problems just with the flow of the kitchen. Our supplies are stored in the kitchen, outside the kitchen, in the corner of Fellowship Hall, in the closet in the ladies' bathroom. You know, we have to go track down things when we put together a meal. In order for the existing kitchen to be certified, we would have to redo the plumbing. We would have to install a ventilation system over the dishwasher. The ventilation system over the oven, I don't know, it's old. I don't know if it would meet code or not. I would guess not.
Creating more opportunities for students to invite friends in. I hate to keep going back to the size of the room, but when you have a room that sort of maxes out at 25 to 30 people, it's hard for you to invite more people into the space at that time. So if you've got 20 to 25 kids coming on a given night and you try to encourage them all to bring a friend, suddenly you have 50 people, and those 50 people wouldn't fit in our student ministry space as it exists now.
You've heard some of the ways in which our building is hindering our ability to fulfill our vision. Now I want to share with you some conceptual drawings about how we can expand and modify our building to become a better tool to serve our ministry. The conceptual drawings I'm about to share with you were developed by an architect in conjunction with a leadership team of our church in 2018. These are concept drawings, which means they're not yet final construction drawings, but they begin to just paint the picture of what it would look like for us to make room for the next generation of ministry in our physical space here at Dutilh Church. Let's start by taking a look at our site plan. You'll notice first, in the top left-hand corner of the drawing, is the main entrance into the church parking lot. That entrance has been moved, and the entire parking lot is reconfigured. Notice that additional parking spaces have been offered on both ends of the existing building. This plan for parking increases our parking capacity 34% and creates 61 additional parking spaces. These parking spaces are aligned in a manner where we feel the parking lot will be safer and will not be as cramped. In addition to the additional parking, notice that there's a driveway and a roundabout way that you can drop people off at the front door. There's a widened drop-off area, and right next to the drop-off area, there's a bank of 8 handicap accessible parking spaces. If we look at the building itself, the large brown area is the existing church building, and the lighter shades of brown are proposed additions. The current church building is about 27,000 square feet in space. The proposed additions would increase our capacity to 42,000 square feet. So the master plan calls for about a 55% expansion in terms of usable square footage in the church building. Next, let's look at the demolition plan. At the top of the chart, you'll notice what is our current entryway that is shaded in gray. That's because the current main entrance to the church would be demolished as part of the master plan, because we find that the current entryway is narrow and creates a real pinch point for the church. In addition, if you look at the back, there's an old section of the building where the current offices and the current restrooms and music room are located, and that old section of building would be demolished as well. This enables us to create a space where there's no elevation change, everything's on the same level, and will allow us to create new handicap accessible restrooms and a new nursery. In total, about 5,000 square feet of existing space will be demolished. Next, let's turn our attention to the first floor plan. On this drawing, the areas that are in yellow are existing parts of our church building, and areas in blue represent added space. If we start on the right of the drawing, you'll see our sanctuary. Notice that by and large, the structure of our sanctuary remains unchanged. Instead of changing the structure of our sanctuary, we do plan to do renovations to modernize the sanctuary, increase the size of the chancel, and to create a little bit more seating capacity. Off the front of the sanctuary, we've built a storage unit where we can store all of our sanctuary supplies, and there is also a ramp up to the chancel to create handicap accessibility for worship leadership. If you move outside of the sanctuary and into the greeting area, you'll notice that we have an expanded greeting area. Out toward the parking lot, we have a widened entryway with a vestibule and additional greeting area space, so there is more space for people to connect. Directly off the greeting area, we have a new meeting room where 36 people with tables and chairs could meet. If we come to the back of the greeting area, on the back section of the building, we have new restrooms, and we have 2 large community meeting rooms. These would be places where we could host 12-step groups, where some of our quilting and sewing ministries can meet, and those rooms have a dividable wall such that they could be used by up to 50 people. Next to those community rooms, we have brand new nursing space that's close to the sanctuary. There's a nursing room for mothers. There are 2 separate rooms that can be used for childcare. If we move into the fellowship hall area, our current fellowship hall presents the challenge that you have to walk through the fellowship hall to get from one side of the building to the other. So the first thing we do is we create a corridor so that it's possible to have an event in the fellowship hall without people walking through. Notice that the fellowship hall is being increased in size. The increased size capacity of the fellowship hall allows us, without the stage, to hold 336 people in there for a community meal. This more than doubles the capacity of our fellowship hall. Off the edge of the fellowship hall, there's a brand new kitchen that's double in size to the current one, with a loading dock off the back of the church. This fellowship hall will be equipped with sound and technology and could be used as an alternative worship space. Continuing to work our way left, we enter into the children's ministry area. For the first time in Dutill's history, the master plan calls for dedicated children's ministry space, and the entire first floor of the current Ed Wing is renovated to become that children's space. It begins with a large children's assembly room, and then a variety of breakout classrooms where children of all ages can be cared for. If you come out the corridor, you'll be in a part of a new section of our building where we have a lobby for check-in to our preschool and children ministry area. There's an elevator that goes upstairs and also a set of steps. To the right and on the front of the building is a brand new office suite where our staff will be able to serve the church. The advantage of having the office suite here is it gives clear visibility to the front door, and from a safety and security perspective enables us to be clear about who's coming in and going out of the building on a daily basis. Continuing to the second floor plan, notice again that the yellow areas are existing church building and the blue areas are addition. Starting from the top left, you'll notice that the new addition on the front of the building has a second floor. When you come to the top of the elevator, you enter our preschool ministry wing. And across the front of the building are 3 preschool classrooms that will be utilized by our preschool ministry. While these are preschool classrooms, they are available to be used as well by our children's ministry. By placing the preschool classrooms on the second floor, we created an environment that can be more secure for our preschool ministry, as that area can be locked down. We also will be creating preschool classrooms that enable us to have a certified preschool program. Coming back on the second floor, you'll see that we have our new youth ministry area, which includes a large youth classroom with an optional divider that gives us a large and flexible space for our student ministry. Off of that area, there is a breakout room where we can have a game room or a snack shop for our youth. Also notice on this floor, as on every floor, there's lots of additional storage throughout the master plan to deal with all of our storage issues. Notice also that the new kitchen and the new community rooms and the new front entrance, these are single-story additions, so there is not a second floor on any of those additions. These next set of drawings are elevation views of what the outside of the building will look like once the master plan is implemented. This here is the view from the entrance drive coming into the church. You can see the new layout of the parking lot, and you can also see the building additions on the front side of the building. Starting from the left, you see the new storage unit that enters into the sanctuary. Then we have the existing sanctuary wall. Next, you see this is the new meeting room off the greeting area, and you can see the new widened and open entryway. When we move to the next drawing, you can see the preschool rooms on the second floor, the new office space on the first floor, and the preschool entryway here. And off to the right is a fenced-in play yard for the children. Here's a close-up view of the new entrance canopy and the drop-off area, a nice area to drop people off as they are entering the church. And finally, here's a view from Route 19. One of the things that we think is important is that our church be well known and visible from the road. And so you'll notice some signage and some crosses on the exterior of the building to identify the building as a church. To the right, you'll see this particular section of the building is the new kitchen that's being built. And over here again is that fenced-in play yard. So these are the conceptual drawings that have been developed by the architect of what our building plan looks like. The preliminary budget that was provided by the architect puts the total cost for the project just under $10 million to complete the entire master plan, all of the additions and renovations listed, including the construction costs, the soft costs, and furnishings, and some of the contingency costs as well. Just under $10 million total. In order to raise the funds to be able to begin to implement these conceptual drawings, we're going to need to conduct a capital campaign at Dutilh Church, which means we need every member of our church to begin to pray about how God is calling them to support this vision to make room for future ministry. Because as a church, it's important for us to be outward focused and to be always looking toward those beyond our walls, we're going to take a portion of funds raised in the capital campaign and use them to support mission and outreach around the world. A portion of the amount raised will be used to support our camp ministry, which enables kids to go to camp where they hear about the love of Jesus Christ. In addition, our church will also be helping to build a medical clinic in Mshambanaka, Zimbabwe, as part of our Nadiri Connection missional emphasis. In this way, when you participate in our capital campaign, you're not only helping us expand our facility here at Dutilh, you're helping us make room for God's love and for mission are literally around the world. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation today. I hope that you'll begin praying about how God is calling you to participate in our vision of making room. As we close today, I want to share with you our campaign prayer. This is the prayer that we're praying every day at Dutilh Church, that God would lead us in this effort. As I pray this prayer, I ask that you would pray it with me right wherever you are, so that we might come before our Father and bring to Him these lofty dreams that we share. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you make room for us in your eternal home, graciously opening to us the door of everlasting life, love, and peace through your Son, Jesus Christ. By the power of your Holy Spirit, empower us to make room. Give us spiritual discipline to make room for your presence and power in our lives, making you our top priority and treasuring you above all else. With gracious hospitality Enable us to make room for others in our church so that they too can experience your goodness and love. Following the example of Jesus, may we make room to serve in your name, seeking not after our own interests, but the interest of others. And above all else, may your will be done in us and in our church. This we pray in the mighty and strong name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.